Okay, I got an idea. We'll shoot this entire Fujifilm 8mm lens review on the 8mm lens.
Are you sure?
Hang on, I want you to fill the frame. Come a little closer.
I guess this means I don't have to shoot it then.
Closer,
that's okay.
Closer, closer.
Does this look flattering?
That looks great.
Really? And we're back. So Jordan's harebrained scheme is not going to work because I need the 8mm lens to shoot all the photos today. And you know, we're back to our regular setup. Plus, it probably wasn't very flattering anyways. So we are looking at the new Fujifilm 8mm WR 3.5 lens. Now, this is giving me a 12mm full frame equivalent. That's what I got to shoot with today. So let's get to testing. So we always like to test lenses with higher resolution bodies. We tried to get a 40 megapixel sensor, but you know what? We couldn't do it this time. But you know what? I've got the Fujifilm XS20 today. It pairs nicely with this more compact lens better anyways. And yeah, that's what we're going with. I like this camera.
Vertical, huh?
Always vertical for you. Because it works so well in the 16:9 video format, Jordan.
It does not.
Stop stifling my creative potential. Oh, you're gonna like that one. I don't like these photos. So I think Fujifilm really needed a lens like this in their lineup because, you know, the only way to get a rectilinear auto-focusing ultra-wide range like this that covers that 12mm full frame equivalent is to go to something like their 8-16 f2.8 ultra-wide zoom. And that's a great lens, absolutely. But it's large, you know, it doesn't take filters very easily, and it's almost twice as expensive as this lens. So I think this is really not giving out much light. f3.5 versus f2.8. It's much more compact. It fills a really good niche. So popping this out of the box, you definitely notice how compact a lens it is. Comes with a nice hood, only weighs 215 grams. That's just over 1/10 of a knock, so easy to carry around all day. 62mm filter thread on the front, which is nice. This doesn't have a manual focus clutch, but it does have a nice dampened manual focus ring, classic aperture ring like most Fuji lenses have. And even though it is very lightweight, it feels solid, metal construction, and it is weather sealed, so you know you can take it into some rough environments and it's gonna survive. Like this?
Yeah, just like that. Perfect.
Now this lens doesn't have a linear focusing motor in it, but it doesn't really need one. I mean, it's small elements, they move quickly, and again, autofocus with an ultra-wide lens, you get so much depth of field, even at wider apertures, you actually have a lot of leeway there. So I think the focusing motor is perfectly appropriate for this kind of lens. All right, so let's test the close-up capabilities on this lens here. Now, you can see my working distance is right there, so I'm about 2 inches away from the front of that lens, about 4.5, 5 inches from this sensor. I wouldn't call this a macro lens. I mean, you can see the majority of the plant is still in the shot just because it's so wide, but you can absolutely have fun with just the distortion of perspective, you know, pushing that background far, far away. So not a macro lens, but you can still have fun with it close up. And I finally took a horizontal photo so Jordan can stop complaining.
Thank you.
Now certainly an ultra-wide lens like this is at home doing interiors and architecture and stuff like that. I mean, I'm shooting a lot of downtown skyscrapers today, but you could certainly use this for landscape as well in certain situations. And in that situation, you're very likely going to have the sun in the shot because it's a very wide lens. So let's talk about how this thing handles flare, ghosting, and sunstars. So first thing, flare, really well controlled, not an issue at all, didn't see any problems. Ghosting was pretty well controlled too. I only noticed it if I really stopped down the lens to extremely tight apertures. Now when it comes to sunstars though, that's a bit of a different story. As you can see here, I mean, you get them, and of course they can even be quite large, but they're just not very distinct. We're getting those sort of, you know, double points on everything, kind of looks blurry and messy. So not the best sunstars, but otherwise shooting towards the sun, no problem. So for video work, it'd be really nice if this lens had a manual focus clutch. It'd be nice if it had a declickable aperture, but at least the breathing is really well controlled, and I wasn't expecting that. So you can see here as we focus from the closest focusing distance to infinity that the field of view barely changes. That being said, this isn't really the kind of lens that you would do a lot of focus pulls with because its ultra-wide nature means that your focus is basically in focus from a meter to infinity most of the time. So when you think shallow depth of field, soft backgrounds, you don't normally think about an f3.5 8mm ultra wide lens. And because of that, as we talk about bokeh, I'm not really going to talk about specular highlights. They're quite small in the frame. But if you do get close enough to your subjects and you shoot wide open, you can get some softness in the background. And I will say that the rendition of the autofocus area is actually quite smooth and quite pleasing. It's not harsh, looks nice. The sort of range from in focus to out of focus, that transition is really beautiful. So in the rare cases where you do get shallow depth of field, this lens actually does a pretty good job. Jordan, I know what the comments are going to say. It's going to say, Chris says sunstars suck on this lens, proceeds to take multiple sunstar photos. It's true. It's true. So let's talk about sharpness next on the Fujifilm 8mm. Now, even though we're only using a 26 megapixel sensor, actually I think we're able to see quite clearly where this lens is working, where it's starting to fall apart. So, looking at the center of the image, shooting wide open at f3.5, very good detail. In fact, stopping down to f8, I really don't notice much difference. Shooting the f3.5, the corners here, pretty blurry, pretty mushy in the extremes. Stopping down to f8 does help quite a bit, but we're still getting some softness to those corners. I think still for most landscape and architecture situations, this is going to be totally usable. So we're doing something you wouldn't normally do. You know, we're shooting the entire day just with one focal length here and an ultra wide one at that. And I mean, I guess I personally find this zoom to be more versatile, of course, but there is a unique look to an 8mm wide lens on an APS-C sensor. I mean, you could do some fun stuff. And I feel like if this is something that you feel you might want for your workflow that you're going to do once in a while, well, then it makes sense to get something like this little prime. It's easy to carry around. It's nice for travel. It's nice that you can throw filters on there. You can always crop in a bit if you want a bit of a tighter frame, but I think they've done a really good job making an optically decent ultra wide little prime here. It's not a lens for everybody, but at the same time, they've actually kept the price quite affordable given what it can do. So hopefully this review helps you guys decide if this is the right little compact prime for you. Leave your comments below, let us know what you think. Check out our podcast. Please watch that on the same channel or listen to it on all your favorite podcasting apps. You just got to look up the PetaPixel podcast and you will find it. Check out our socials, you know, message us, say nice things, say mean things, whatever you want to do. In the end, I think we had a fun day today, and I even got Jordan a couple horizontally framed shots. Thank you. You're welcome. We'll see you soon with another episode of PetaPixel.